No question of the suffering. We did not bring it to an end by artificial means. It should be natural. The end should be natural. And the suffering also should end naturally. You see, one of the main reasons is compassion for the beings, life as a whole. As Mahavir has preached, all life is equal. So we believe that even an insect is as good as a big elephant. So we look after these things out of compassion. The compassion that we hold originally for ourselves.
There's building work going on here. A vast shopping and office complex is under construction. The income produced by the rents will be used to finance this shelter and another larger one in the countryside. The trust is legally obliged to use the money for this purpose alone. Private wealth brings personal problems. This is the house of a prominent Jain industrialist and leader of the Jain community. Shrenik Lalbhai is the son of an eminent Jain philanthropist. He was educated in the United States at Harvard University. Shrenik did not practice Jainism until about 10 years ago, when he began to look seriously at its teachings. It was then that he realized the difficulties of being a devout Jain and an industrialist.
For a human being to survive, he has to earn a living, and for that he has to start a business or an industry. My father had a lot of industries. I joined it, and at that time I had no realization that according to the Jain tenets, there would be a lot of killing. You know that when you are having a textile mill or a starch factory, you have to have a boiler, you have to have electricity. When you use starch, maize and corn and all that, there is a lot of killing of insects and all those things. So when I began to realize this, I began to ask questions, how do I avoid this? And I also asked the Acharya, what should be done in such a dilemma? And he said, you should realize that you should get out of all this. And if you have to do it, don't take enjoyment in doing it, but just accept it, but try to minimize it to the ultimate extent that you possibly can in doing it. So now I have reached 60, I am thinking of retiring because I would rather give it up than go on continuing it. I am not feeling guilty, but I am feeling that what I have been taught is intrinsically correct, but very difficult to practice. And if it is difficult to practice, then you feel sorry, but you have to do it. And so I allow myself to be persuaded that you have to do it, so you try to live with it.
For the monks, there can be no such compromise. Their austerities are there for all to see, and the laity's expectations of them are unremitting. They don't usually allow themselves to be filmed, because Orthodox Jains say even the photographic process is violent. They consented to help with this film because they wanted to explain to a wider audience the vital necessity of non-violence. This they never tired of explaining to their followers. Here, Padmasagar Suri explains the significance of their ornate whisk, whose use is symbolic as well as practical.
ये जो है ये अष्टमंगल है और श्रेष्ठ में श्रेष्ठ ये मंगल माना गया है। साधुओं के पास दीक्षा के बाद ये रजोहरण दिया जाता है और ये धर्मध्वज कहलाता है, ये प्रतीक है। साधु बनने के ये इसको प्रतीक माना है। चलते समय भी ये इस तरह से चला जाएगा, रात्रि में इसी प्रकार चलते हैं। अब जैसे बैठना है तो भी मैं बैठूंगा तो भी इससे पूछ करके और उसके बाद ही।
Monks must check their robes several times a day in case they've accidentally killed an insect. If they have, they perform a penance, which varies according to the type of insect and where it fits into the hierarchy of life. Mosquitoes are higher than bedbugs. They become skilled at noticing even the tiniest of their fellow beings and gently persuade them that their best interest lies elsewhere. There are even rules on how they must sleep. They must occupy the minimum possible floor space. They must always try to be attentive and sweep the floor of insects before they turn. They say that this constant attentiveness is a type of meditation. Monks and nuns filter out insects from their drinking water. This has already been boiled by their disciples, who must bear the guilt of the consequent deaths of the microorganisms it contains. With all these rules to follow, how does a teacher test a disciple? Nirmala Shri is the teacher of these nuns.
तब उसमें आने वाले कुटुंबीजन जो है वे पूछते हैं कि वहाँ लॉज करना पड़ेगा, धूप में चलना पड़ेगा, पैदल चलना पड़ेगा, गाड़ी और मोटर नहीं मिलेंगी, भोजन लुहा रुखा सुखा मिलेगा, तुम्हारे मन में आना कोई भी चीज नहीं मिलेगा। तो भी संयमी अर्थी जो है वो कहता है भले कोई बात नहीं, मैं तो संयम जीवन को ही स्वीकार करूंगा। वो कष्ट जो है ये मुझे कष्ट लगते ही नहीं है। क्यों? कि मुझे प्रिय है। तो जब अपनी प्रिय वस्तु प्राप्त करनी होती है तो उससे मिलने वाले जो कष्ट है वो आदमी कष्ट मानते नहीं है, उसमें भी उसमें आनंद आता है।
Nirmala Shri herself was initiated at the age of 9, when her mother also became a nun. She's a respected teacher, and a group of lay followers have come to take part in a ritual confession of sin, asking for forgiveness for wavering from the path of Jain conduct. She absolves them and asks pardon for her own transgressions. Sangeeta Rasiklal is 20 years old and comes from a rich family in Bombay. She has set her heart on taking Diksha, or becoming initiated as a nun.
In Jainism, monks and nuns are the ideal. They show the path of liberation. And in liberation, soul is the main thing and not the body. And for purity of a soul, body is not to be worried about it. And they are so spiritually forward that even though they do not take bath, they do not smell, because soul is a pure thing and not the body. When my father heard of it that I am going to take Diksha, he told me to go to the States and see the things whatever there in States. And I've been to Disneyland, then Washington and everything. But whatever I find is that is much more material life and not a spiritual life. The state is lacking in spiritual life, so I felt like that I should come back to India to have a spiritual life, and so I'm firm on my decision to become a nun and to take Diksha.